Welcome to the starting lineup for weeks 19 and 20 with Andrew Wiebe. I'm Jason Saghini. Remember, this week there are 2 fantasy rounds. Wednesday, Thursday is round 19. Saturday, Sunday is round 20. Andrew, how are you prepping for this double fixture week?
Well, it puts the onus on you, the owner, to make sure you're ready for round 20. Look, you might be recovering. You might be just exhausted from setting off fireworks all night. Who knows? Either way, make sure you're ready. A couple different ways to do that. Maybe get a team with no buys going through. That's one possibility. A little bit more intelligent, though, would just be to use the mobile app, m.fantasy.mlssoccer.com. No matter where you're at, be it at grandma's, wherever it is, you can get in there and change your team and make sure you're ready and prepared for round 20, and perhaps your opponent won't be.
And we're spending the holiday weekend at grandma's?
No, that's back in Kansas, but maybe you are. I don't know. I'm just making guesses here.
All right, good rehearsal, sort of. All right, let's get back to how you're going to handle your fantasy team this week. Andrew, what are some of the teams that have good schedules going into this week?
Well, there's 3 in particular I think that you should look at. Number 1, the LA Galaxy, 2 home games, Columbus in that first one, and then FC Dallas. FC Dallas not exactly pouring in the goals, much better at home. Another one to think about, the Montreal Impact playing 2 of the worst teams in MLS right now, at Toronto where they've had some success, and then they're going to play Chivas at home. That's a great option for you fantasy owners. And finally, another team to consider are the Colorado Rapids, like LA, 2 home games. The first against New York, and then they have DC at home as well. Chris Kloot, maybe Clint Irwin, both options for you. And Deshaun Brown, he is now once again an option scoring goals, a nice rookie option up top.
Now let's get into fan questions, and the first one comes in from Keegan. He says, how long does the Gold Cup last, and how much can you expect players' prices to drop who are away for Gold Cup?
Yeah, well, the final is going to be the last Sunday of the month, but of course not all teams are going to get there. I do think, though, that you should bet on your guys not being around until at least the 20th or 21st of July. That is the quarterfinal stage. Everybody will be gone through the middle of the month. That is guaranteed. The group stage goes that long, but 8 of 12 teams move on to that next round. So I think most of your MLS players will get that far. As far as price drops, get rid of those guys now. If you haven't already, you're already losing money. That is valuable coin in the bank that you'll want to use later on down the road. We saw during World Cup qualifiers, guys dropped big bucks. And Will Johnson, for example, he's already down $0.4 million. So I think you can expect those to keep dropping.
All right, moving on to one of our bigger fans, Cameron Evans, asked a question. Who do you recommend as a good replacement for Nick Rimando? I'll give you a couple guys you can choose from. Raul Fernandez this week playing Chivas at home. It's not a bad bet to bet against Chivas on the road. That said, and I actually kind of like him at LA over the weekend also. Without Landon Donovan, I don't know what we're going to see from this LA Galaxy attack. I don't expect it to be as dynamic. After that, it gets a little shakier for Dallas and Raul Fernandez. The other guy I would put who maybe has a better stretch for a longer period of time, Troy Perkins of the Montreal Impact. I know they gave up 4 goals this last weekend. I don't think that's something that's going to keep happening. I think that's maybe a little bit of a wake-up call for them, and I think things get better quickly for them.
Yeah, I would agree on Perkins. To be honest, there's really no goalkeeper that has just a lockdown schedule from fantasy purposes. If you're looking for somebody for just this week, Michael Gasperning, DC United in Seattle, that's usually a good bet. Then if you need somebody a little bit more long-term, a 3-week period, for example, Jimmy Nielsen has a nice schedule coming up. Vancouver at home, at Chicago, and then Toronto at home. I think Sporting Kansas City, that was out of character this weekend. 2 horrible mistakes that you won't see be repeated.
All right, we're going to move on to some questions about defenders who hopefully won't be making big mistakes. We'll start with this question from Alan Swanson. He says, is DeAndre Yedlin back for the Sounders? He needs a cheap replacement for Tony Beltran. I'll tell you this, Yedlin's still dealing with a little bit of a shoulder issue. It's kind of a wait and see with him. When he is back and healthy, we expect him to be the starter for Seattle. But at this point, he hasn't played now for a couple weeks as he came back injured from the U20s. I don't know if Ziggy Schmidt is ready to throw him on there from the start of a game and have him play 90 minutes. So I would not pick him up until you see him on the field as a starter.
Yeah, here are 3 options for you. The first, Chris Kloot. We mentioned Colorado's schedule. He is a good bet. I benched him last week idiotically and paid for it. Also, $5 million, a little bit more. Shannon Williams, we recommended him last week. You would have benefited if you picked him up. I think that continues. Without Jack McInerney, wide service is going to be huge, and Sebastian Letou may or may not play out there. And then finally, bargain basement, Jeff Brofsky of Montreal. You mentioned that good schedule coming up there for them. He may benefit from that, and you know he is going to play.
All right, another question coming in from Andrew about defenders. He needs a replacement for Corey Ash. Ash at $4.8 million. He's looking at a lot of the similar guys. Sturgis, Brovsky, Zimmerman are the guys that he points out. I like Sturgis. I know Andrew does too, and a couple other guys I would throw out. Bakari Samari at 4.5, Jordan Harvey at 4.6. But really, Sturgis is the guy that anyone who's looking for a defender could be looking at.
Yeah, he's going to get those shutout points, but he actually plays in the midfield, and he's got a scoring touch this year with 3 goals and an assist. So you're going to benefit on both fronts with Nathan Sturgis. And as I said about Clute, he has got a good schedule coming up. You would expect him to be productive.
All right, just keep in mind that they have 2 games, New York and DC at home. Then they have a bye, but after that bye, they have a double week, which again, obviously very important in fantasy. Moving on to a question about forwards. It comes in from Ryan. He says, which one to sit amongst Devayo, Higuain, and Camilo? This is the order I would sit them in. Higuain, Camilo, and then Devayo. I think LA is going to be very focused this week on defense, and Higuain traveling to the Home Depot Center in that first game. Remember, LA has Omar Gonzalez in the back to erase those set-piece opportunities. As far as I'm concerned, you're going to sit him despite the fact that he's one of the top scorers in all of MLS Fantasy.
Yeah, either that or sell him at this point. I think I agree with Jason on all of these. I would say Higuain better get familiar with Marcelo Sarvas. He is going to be shadowing him all over the field. And Camilo without Russell Tybert, yet to see if that's going to come off. One of the guys that's really been providing service for him. And Marco Devayo, we talk about him every week. He's got 3 goals in 3 games, including Canadian Championship against Toronto. I think he does it again. Another goal for him. That's what you expect from the Italian.
All right, speaking of Devayo, he appears in this last question about captains coming in from Christian. He says, should I captain Devayo, Camilo, Morales, or Michel? He also asks, should I play Letou or Cronin? And I'll take the second question and leave the first to you. As far as Letou and Cronin go, I think they're pretty even as far as the expected points. I would lean towards Letou only because he might end up being pushed up to play forward next to Connor Casey. We talked last week about whether it would be Letou or Hopino. I think you have a little bit more to go with there on Letou, a little bit higher upside, so I'd probably start him out of those 2.
Yeah, and as far as the captaincy goes, we mentioned Marco Devayo. He is not a bad play by any means, but I think I would go with Javier Morales. I think it was a blip in Toronto last weekend. Not a lot of crosses from, not a lot of created chances. I think he comes back from that. No Kyle Beckerman. The pressure is on Javi, and I think he delivers. Michel, though, not a bad option. If you're a little bit of like a budget crunch here, you don't have the $9.1 million to go throw out on Morales. He is a great play with Chivas at home. He's going to have those set pieces. He's going to get the shutout points. We know Chivas USA is not good on balls in the air, and FC Dallas, that's a big team. A great opportunity there for some big points.
All right, a lot of info to digest along with your 4th of July barbecues. I hope you guys enjoy the games on Wednesday and Thursday, and then of course the next week on the next game date on Saturday and Sunday. Andrew and I are done for this starting lineup. You can hit us up on Twitter though if you want on Friday and Saturday. We'll try to answer as many questions as we can. You can also tweet at MLS Fantasy for advice as well.
Hey, make sure you say hi to Grandma. Stay safe.
All right, that's all we have. See you next week.